The sliding doors of Super Save parted with a hiss as I walked inside, my boots still crusted with dried cement from a long day at the construction site. It was 8:30 on a Thursday evening, and all I wanted was a chilled bottle of water and maybe a protein bar before making the drive back to Riverside. The fluorescent bulbs overhead buzzed faintly, throwing that sickly glow that somehow made everyone look pale and tired. I grabbed what I needed and headed toward the express checkout, marked in bold red letters, 10 items or fewer. That's when I spotted her. Karen Fitzgerald. She was planted at the express register with a cart so overloaded it looked like she was stocking up for a natural disaster. The cashier, barely more than a kid with a name tag that read Tyler, was sweating nervously as he tried, in the most polite voice possible, to remind her of the rule. Karen's voice, on the other hand, echoed across the store as she proclaimed that her time was worth more than anyone else's and that such rules were optional for someone like her. I fell in line behind her, clutching my 2 items, and watched the circus unfold. Her blonde hair was styled within an inch of perfection, the kind that probably required a monthly budget to maintain. Designer sunglasses rested on her head despite it being dark outside, and her spotless tennis outfit clearly hadn't ever been worn on a court. Her cart was stuffed with at least 60 items, cases of sparkling water, neatly wrapped organic produce, and enough microwave dinners to supply a barracks. Tyler tried again, voice trembling, to explain the checkout policy. Before he could finish, Karen cut him off with a sharp snap. She announced to everyone within earshot that she was a Platinum Rewards member who had loyally shopped there for 15 years, credentials that, in her mind, granted her the authority to use any checkout she pleased. The poor kid looked like he wanted to sink through the tile floor. As Karen droned on about how the store should be grateful for her business, I finally spoke up, keeping my voice steady. I suggested that since 3 regular lanes stood wide open, she might actually get through faster there, given how many items she had. She whipped around so quickly I half expected her to strain her neck. Her eyes narrowed as they scanned my dusty clothes and work-worn hands. Then, in a syrupy tone heavy with disdain, she told me that people in my tax bracket couldn't possibly understand the pressures on someone of her status. She insisted she had a charity gala planning meeting at 9 o'clock and could not possibly waste time waiting like an ordinary shopper. The hypocrisy wasn't lost on me, preaching charity while treating everyone around her like dirt. The line grew longer, and the frustration behind me became palpable. An older man clutching bread and milk exhaled loudly. A young mother with a crying baby and a basket of formula looked ready to collapse. But Karen, she acted as if none of it mattered, or worse, she enjoyed it. One by one, she started unloading her cart onto the belt, deliberately slow, lifting each item as though she were performing for an audience. When Tyler, with visible hesitation, gently suggested once more that she move to another register, Karen demanded to see his manager. Her voice pitched up to a shrill screech as she accused him of discrimination and threatened to have him fired. That's when everything went off the rails. Karen's eyes flicked toward my bottle of water and protein bar, sitting neatly at the edge of the conveyor where I'd placed them. With a theatrical sweep of her arm, she sent both crashing to the floor. My water bottle rolled under the candy rack, rattling as it disappeared. She smirked and announced that if I was in such a hurry, I should have shopped earlier, and besides, people like me, hourly workers, shouldn't mind waiting since we supposedly got paid for standing around. The entire front end of the store froze. Even the background music seemed to cut off in shock. Tyler's jaw dropped, the old man behind me muttered something about shame being a lost concept, and the young mom raised her phone, clearly recording every second. I crouched down to retrieve my things, keeping my cool even though fury simmered in my chest. Before I could even say a word, Tyler snatched the intercom with trembling hands and paged for a manager. His voice cracked as he called for immediate assistance at the express lane. Karen looked downright smug, convinced that management would swoop in to defend her. She began projecting her voice again, bragging that she personally knew the district manager and planned to file a formal complaint about incompetent staff. The manager arrived within moments. Her name tag read Janet, and she carried herself with a kind of no-nonsense authority that only comes from years of dealing with people like Karen. One glance was all she needed. The bulging cart, the restless customers, Tyler's stricken expression, and Karen standing there with arms crossed like royalty. Calmly, Janet asked Karen to move her purchase to a regular register. Karen's reply was to demand Janet's employee ID number and warned that she'd sue for harassment. She insisted this was a targeted attack on her because she drove a luxury car, and the staff were clearly envious of her success. Janet's face remained neutral, though I caught the slight clench of her jaw. Then came the moment none of us expected. Janet quietly pulled out her phone and made a quick call. Within minutes, 2 uniformed security guards appeared and began steering Karen's overloaded cart away from the express lane. Karen's response was ear-splitting. She shrieked accusations of theft and assault, her voice ricocheting off the walls, while the guards calmly pushed her groceries toward customer service. Janet explained evenly that Karen would not be completing her purchase that evening. That's when the floodgates opened. Other customers began chiming in, sharing their own Karen stories. The older man recalled how she once ordered a clerk to haul her groceries through a thunderstorm while she stayed dry under her umbrella. The young mother said Karen had filed a complaint about her baby crying in the store. Clearly, this wasn't her first performance. Karen's face turned blotchy purple as she realized the crowd was against her. She whipped out her phone, threatening to call corporate, the local news, even her lawyer all at once. But Janet, unflinching, informed her that the store had security footage of her intentionally knocking my items to the ground, a move that could easily qualify as assault. Did Karen really want the police involved? That stopped her cold. The fire drained from her voice, replaced with frantic backpedaling. She stammered that it had been an accident, that she was under stress, that surely this could be resolved calmly. But Janet didn't budge. She told Karen plainly that she was banned from the store for the next 30 days. As security escorted Karen to the doors, she made one last, desperate attempt to save face, loudly declaring that she would be taking her considerable business elsewhere. The response was immediate. A wave of applause broke out from shoppers and employees alike, echoing through the front of the store. The sound seemed to drain whatever bravado she had left. Through the glass windows, we caught sight of her pacing in the parking lot, phone pressed to her ear, gesturing wildly as if trying to justify how she'd managed to get herself thrown out without groceries. Back inside, Tyler scanned my water and protein bar with a visible sigh of relief. He thanked me for keeping my cool, but I told him he was the one who'd handled it like a pro. Before leaving, I made sure to pass along my compliments to Janet for his composure under fire. When I reached my truck, Karen was still out there, sitting in her sleek SUV, clearly debating her next move. She looked less like a queen holding court and more like someone realizing her kingdom had just crumbled. A week later, I stopped by the store again. Tyler caught me up on the aftermath. Karen had tried to skirt her 30-day ban by sending her husband to shop in her place. But when Janet explained the situation, the man had actually apologized on her behalf. He admitted he'd been urging her to seek anger management for years and seemed almost relieved that someone else had finally confronted her. As for the infamous meltdown, the security footage of her swatting my items to the ground had been saved, and Janet assured me the store would back me if I wanted to press charges. I declined. The ban and public embarrassment felt like more than enough justice. But fate wasn't finished with Karen Fitzgerald. One of the bystanders who'd recorded the entire spectacle happened to sit on the board of the very charity whose gala Karen had been bragging about. The video landed in the director's hands, and they were horrified that someone in such a visible role had behaved so appallingly in public. An emergency meeting was called. By the end of it, Karen had been stripped of her position as chair of the gala planning committee. A letter, later posted on the community Facebook page, explained the decision in stark terms. Her actions were fundamentally at odds with the charity's mission of compassion and respect for people from all walks of life. To twist the knife further, she was also banned from attending the gala she'd spent half a year organizing. The board concluded that her outburst had not only tarnished their reputation but might have jeopardized relationships with donors who value humility and kindness above appearances.